2 of the Metamorphoses ends on a curiously subtle note. The general arc of Book 2 is a seemingly endless story of rape and lust and frustration and sometimes really aggressive conquest. And it ends with the story of Jove and Europa, the abduction and rape of Europa, depending on how you want to characterize it. But Jove starts out by talking to Mercury and saying, all right, do me a favor. Right after Mercury had got done turning somebody he didn't like into a statue, he says, okay, do me a favor, son. Take these cattle down to the shore. These cattle down in the city of Sidon, which is modern day Lebanon, and saying, okay, there's a herd of cattle there, get them down to the shore, get them to the water. And okay, Mercury does this, and then without really mentioning explicitly why, Zeus transforms himself into a bull, a white bull, and goes and finds his way among the herds. Now, it's been mentioned that the princess of there, the daughter of the king Agenor, has in the past been known to frequent that little area and go and hang out by the shore. So he's just sort of lolling about there. But very inconspicuously, as inconspicuous as a white bull could be, is as white as the untrampled snow before the south wind turns it to slush. Untrampled. It seems virginal, seems innocent, seems quite pure. But waiting to be trampled is, in the guise of a bull, Zeus seems to be assuming a form that is oddly feminine in this, oddly passive. His brow is quite unthreatening. He's been raping and pillaging his way through this poem so far, but now he's quite unthreatening. Again, putting himself in a kind of a passive thing. So he has changed not just from a god into a bull, but arguably from the alpha male into a curiously feminine personification. Europa, the daughter of King Agenor, sees him and says, "Ooh, look at that." And she goes and she starts to pet him. And it's very tender. It's very surprising. And she pushes flowers into his white mouth. An act of penetration, yes. The flower could be, and she is forcing it upon his mouth. You can go a couple of different ways with that, which I'm not going to discuss. But the scene is very tender. The scene is very gentle. The scene is very seductive, which is what all of the raping beforehand and the attacking completely ignored. So here the story arc of Book 2 has metamorphosed from aggression to one of passivity and seduction. The lover, quite beside himself, rejoices as a preview of delights to come, kisses her fingers, getting so excited that he can scarcely keep from doing it. Again, this is all foreplay, if you will. It is a promise. It is something seductive. It is something that is not forced. The bull sort of lolls around, enjoys it. Jove even gets on his back, or he gets Europa on his back, and she starts petting him, and he starts walking slowly to the water. Eases his way in and starts to swim, and they swim all the way to Crete, where eventually she will become, the big queen there. But it ends in the middle of it. Of course, the book ends, book two ends in the middle of something, but it's a promise and it's a seduction. It's a promise of things to come. The image, she trembles as she sees the shore receding and holds the creature's horn in her right hand. And with the other clings to his broad back, her garments streaming in the wind behind her. An image of passion, an image of seduction, an image of completely voluntary copulation, an image that is in stark contrast to all of the force of the earlier part. So here, this lust seems to be more mutual. This lust seems to be more mutually engendered. These are two creatures who have just found one another for this moment, and they are getting swept away by the water, swept away by the wind, swept away by all of nature that is, in fact, a force of passion in its own right, but it's not driven by purely animal lust. It's a very bizarre and sweet end to a very comparatively dark passage in the overall story, but it's a glimpse of what gentleness can be between a human being and the animal world and a human being in the divine world. The human is, of course, positioned between those two in the great chain of being. So it's a curious boundary breaking of the realms. There is no distinction between them. They are all fluid in their identity between those levels.